Let's start, Mr. Hitchcock, by discussing this whole business of frightening audiences. Do you find that audiences are frightened by different things now from the things that frightened them when you started, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, making films?
No, I wouldn't say so, because after all, they were frightened as children. You have to remember that it's all based on Red Riding Hood, you see. Nothing has changed since Red Riding Hood. So what they're frightened of today are exactly the same things they were frightened of yesterday.
Yeah.
Because this, should we call it, this fright complex is rooted in every individual.
Hey there, boils and ghouls. Welcome to another episode of Hollow Weekly. Nick and George here, and we got a little bit of a special episode.
We're doing something different.
Something a little different. Something
we feel like we're compelled to do.
The power of Christ compels us to exercise this. I don't want to say demon, just because it's not.
No.
It's just an article we did not agree with.
Right, exactly. Well, it's an article that caused a little bit of a stir. Not only do we not agree with it, but we're kind of puzzled that it even exists. So here's the thing: there's a film critic named Kenneth Turan, and he came out with an article headlined "Why This Film Critic Gave Up on Horror Movies," and then he has a few arguments and then a few side points in this article about why he personally, for himself, and he does stress this. He's like,
he doesn't blame the the filmmakers,
the fans, whatever. He's like, I'm just walking away from horror movies. But
he had a call to action,
right? But the more you dig into this article, the more baffling that is, the weirder the arguments get, and the odder the conclusion is. Because even though he frames this as a personal decision for himself, at the end of it, he says, I'm walking away from horror unless someone gives me a convincing answer to why I should go see horror movies. So you just invited not only this podcast, but the response of, film lovers, not just horror fans. I mean, film lovers in general.
Yeah.
Because horror is doing great things for Hollywood and has done great things for Hollywood in the past. And it's just very confusing.
And for some of his favorite films, apparently.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes, we'll get to that. And we're an LA-based podcast, and he writes for the Los Angeles Times. So, it just kind of, we felt like we got to deal with this because I see it everywhere on like my news feeds and
all the
people talking about it in the horror groups and doing whatever, but like no one's really answering his weird.
No, they're just kind of looking at it, going, "That's just one guy's opinion." Who can?
Right. I mean, fair enough, but it's irritated us. So whatever. So, but what we highly recommend, and I know this is like a big ask, and podcast shouldn't be doing this, but we're going to walk through some of the article point by point, and also talk about things that aren't Kenneth Turan based, like the great Roger Ebert and some great horror movies. So
and some other critics as well.
Yes, we're going to try to keep this as entertaining as possible, but it's going to make a lot more sense to you if you've read the article before you listen to this podcast. So we highly recommend right here at the start to go find Kenneth Turan's "Why This Film Critic Gave Up on Horror Movies." I can't say this title without laughing. You're a film critic.
Why he gave up on horror films except the ones he didn't.
I just want to start arguing right now. Okay, go read it so that this is going to make a lot more sense to you. But anyway, let's begin.
Let's dig in. So the first couple bullet points.
Yeah, let's summarize his argument.
Apparently, the last film he enjoyed, horror film,
yes,
was he mentions, like, I think two of them. So one was Phantom of the Opera, Lon Chaney.
Yes,
we're going back.
He enjoyed.
You're going way back.
He enjoyed. It's irritating to me that he didn't like Thomas Edison's Frankenstein from like.
Or what was the other one, like the 1890, that Spooky Castle.
Yeah, right.
Skeleton Day.
Way to leave those out, Ken.
Yeah, okay, were those not good enough?
Right, but go ahead.
And then the last one that he gave a lot of props to, apparently when a lot of other film critics did not back in the day,
Yes.
was George Romero's Night of the Living Dead,
which we appreciate.
which we like.
Yes.
There we go.
He was a partisan for that.
Yes.
So let's back up for a second, because the larger statement in his article is, and this is what Nick's alluding to, is that he used to watch horror movies. He actually even mentions that he knew someone who was involved with the Blood Feast or something. But so he used to watch horror movies and like horror movies, but as he got older, he realized that he is less of an appetite for horror movies, and horror movies got way more extreme. That's his basic argument. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So then the other thing he mentioned, and this was big in the 80s. So this might be a
spandex.
Yes, a lot of spandex when he writes the reviews. Horror traffics in the pornography of terror.
Yeah, that's a quote from a British film something or other that he said that he agrees with. Yes.
Yeah. So and then as he gets older, why would he want to watch horror films when the world around him is getting scarier?
That's his other argument. So not only did horror get more extreme, but the world got scarier and grimmer. So why would you go into a theater and see scary things when they're happening all around you in the real world?
Even though statistically, there's a lot less horrible shit going on in the world,
right? Well,
compared
that's another.
But hey, I don't know.
Right.
I'm just a numbers person.
Yes.
So then, why would I want to put myself in the hands of someone who is awful?
Okay, and so this is, if this one line wasn't in this article, it's possible this podcast episode wouldn't be happening. But it irritated me so badly that this is in here, that I was just like, we have to address this. Okay, so he closes this with this is literally the close to his article. First of all, he compares watching horror movies to eating a rare poisonous Japanese fish that's delicious but could kill you. So that's awesome, because he's a food critic too. So then,
but is it delicious or is it not worth it? I don't know.
So then he says, when one of the stars of The Big Sick tweeted about Chainsaw, they called it terrifying and added, "It crawls inside and stays." This is Kenneth Turan talking now.
It's Kumal. I forget his name, but he's on Comedy Bang Bang sometimes, and he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's awesome. My immediate reaction was to ask, why is that a good thing? Why do I need to open myself to more images to be unnerved about? Why would I want to put myself in the hands of someone whose sole intention is to make me feel as awful as possible? Until someone gives me a convincing answer, horror and I are finished. That's the breakup letter. That's the breakup letter, right? Because
he's the Taylor Swift of film critics. That's his track to drop.
That's awesome. So because here's something that's good for film criticism and film critics to do, is to assume that people who direct movies have one fucking intention. He literally says, the people making horror movies have their sole intention is to make me feel awful. You write about movies for a living, Ken. How is this possible that you've been doing this long and that you could actually say that people who do what Orson Welles, what do you call it, like the world's most expensive or complicated sandbox, like all the shit you have to do to make a movie, they go through all that. Like Jordan Peele put together Get Out, not to comment about social, things, not to, make a really, really exciting movie, not to get all those amazing ideas he had in his head onto the screen, not to give us great performances, not to entertain us, not to make money. He did it to make Ken Turan feel awful. That's why that movie exists, right? This is because only one intention. He's got a sole intention. That makes sense.
They would do it. I actually heard on set, they would do a take, and Jordan Peele would ask the actors, "How'd you feel?" And they would be like, "Well, what would Ken think?" And they were like, "All right, moving on. Next shot."
Next shot, right, exactly. That's for sure. There's a director's cut that makes Ken Turan feel even worse. That'll come out.
Unreleased.
Yeah, it's unreleased.
It's in the vault.
So that was just, there's a lot of stuff in this article I disagree with, but the fact that a film critic would literally say that their movies are one purpose affairs, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all that is, right?
Just terrifying.
Just seemed like so weird that he would even say that. Like I can't even wrap my head around it. But
hey,
yeah.
Who are we?
That's that. So here's the thing. when you go through this article, there are some things that really jump out at me, at least. Was he admits that horror is doing good things for Hollywood. He cites a lot of statistics about
how much money they're making, how
Annabelle
little
creation
they cost to
and
produce.
exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, because he name dropped it, I just want to get to this right away because it's one of the things that really bothers me about his something feeling awful argument. So I was tempted to do the same thing with this film critic that he did to horror, which is judge him without reading his works, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, it was tempting to me to not. He's not watching horror movies. Like, he literally says in this article. Wait, let me find it so that we could all understand. He literally says in this article, despite all this, horror is a genre I never review.
Nope.
And scrupulously avoid even watching. You could count on the fingers of baseball legend Mordecai Three Finger Brown how many horror movies or scary films I've taken in over the past years. So he's not watching them. Even better, he also says that after Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, he started realizing that horror, he says horror and fright films became relentlessly and apologetically going for the jugular with audiences. In glimpses I got in trailers and descriptions I read in reviews, it was clear that filmmakers blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's just get this straight.
Let's back up.
Yeah, let's just get straight. He's not watching the horror movies.
No.
He's not. He's literally scrupulously avoiding them. Like, he's working at this. He's not watching them. He's getting glimpses of them from trailers and secondhand mentions from other reviews that he's reading. So this is how he's judging this genre, right? I mean, can't you, like, is there like a film critic malpractice board? Is there a...
I think that would count. That would be counts against the criticism.
Like, what? I mean, he's making this big public statement about how he's giving up on horror, but he gave up on horror like
in the 70s, which is funny. He gave up on horror, except for the horror films he did not give up on.
Well, yeah. Now, so let's get to this because this is the other thing that is. So I just want to. You're never going to hear this, Kenneth Turan, but I'm just going to address you directly. Okay. I read some of your works, okay, and I respect that you have knowledge or whatever. I'm not particularly impressed with your writing, okay, especially based on this article. So if I'm not here to beg you to go back to horror or watch horror movies. In fact, I don't want you to watch horror movies because I have a feeling if you did watch horror movies, you'd review them. And that means more bad reviews of horror movies with shallow arguments and like whatever. So I'm not here to convince you I'm not going to answer your question about why you should personally go back to horror movies. I am here to demand that you are consistent. So here's the thing you're going to have to do. You're going to have to give up a whole bunch of other films, I hate to tell you.
Yes.
Right? And Nick had a great phrase that I'm going to let him get to in a minute about like, how you get your horror and you are not going to escape. But the thing is, to me, you look at these. I did a thought experiment. Is what clarified this for me. If you made me go see It tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
and then you made me go see There Will Be Blood in the theater the day after, and you interviewed me coming out of the films each day,
mm-hmm.
when I walked out of It, I felt so encouraged by the power of friendship, the bond that those kids had, the fact that they had to unify to get things done, the fact that they were going to face the fears again as adults. Like, there's scary things that happen in the movie, don't get me wrong, but I came out like feeling so encouraged about the fact that people can unify in the face of terror and not sell each other out and like whatever. Mm-hmm. I wanted to kill myself when I walked out of There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that movie is one of the if you had to pin the label of sole intention to make you feel awful on one of those two films, I would give it to There Will Be Blood, which, by the way, Kenneth Turan positively reviewed.
Having you here gives me a second breath. I can't keep doing this on my own. With these people.
Yes, and this is where it
So go
gets
ahead,
interesting.
come up with some other. Go ahead, Nick. Give us some other movies that Kenneth Turan thinks that are great achievements and masterpieces, but he won't watch horror movies.
So the one film that we thought was kind of hilarious because he mentioned, why would you want to put yourself through something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is about a group of friends who find themselves in a very shitty situation and have to get. And I would say that the female lead in Texas Chainsaw Massacre escapes through pure power and strength.
Yes.
The other film he gave a bunch of praise for the same thing
Yep.
was The Revenant.
Right. Because why would you want to put yourself through something awful for 10 hours or however long that
Why would
movie
I want to watch him go through all that horrible shit
right?
for all that time? Why would I want to put myself in that situation? I don't know. Maybe because it's a goddamn movie.
Right. Maybe right because you're there for you are allowed to go see movies for more than one reason.
Yes.
Right. So exactly. Now, I had a really interesting experience going to see Gone Girl, and I'm a big David Fincher fan, but the theater was packed when I saw it, and when that movie ended, you could hear a pin drop. No one even got up. It was just silent because I feel like everyone felt gut punched. Like that movie is just an aggressively negative work, right? I mean, I don't remember ever going to a movie where there weren't like a smattering of people in a full theater who just like bolted as soon as the credits started rolling.
Yeah.
And everyone was just sitting there like, what the hell? Because we felt awful.
Yeah.
Right? And which, by the way, another movie that Kenneth Turan is a big fan of, right? So he likes that. He likes Mulholland Drive. He likes Nightcrawler.
How much?
100,000.
How much?
50,000.
I need a number. 9 minutes, I need a number.
I just gave you 2.
3,000.
I got 3,000 for the food truck stabbings.
There were more, Dad.
Those were poor Mexican people in a roach coach. 2 of them were illegals. These are 3 wealthy white people shot and killed in their mansion, including a suburban housewife shotgunned in her bed. I know you, Nina. I know your interest and excitement in this product is greater than the amount you're offering.
He likes Foxcatcher.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the players in Foxcatcher.
Unbelievable. Like, what an awful... And actually, in his own review of Foxcatcher, he says that it holds a mirror up to American society and doesn't like what it sees or something like that.
Huh, what genre has held a mirror up to America for decades?
Right? I mean, yeah, exactly. So
even a filmmaker whose work he previously loved, George Romero, was famous for doing that. So when Foxcatcher does it, oh, it's wonderful, how grateful it is. George Romero does it post Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
And trash.
Yes.
Trash. Because he's sadistic and wants to make you feel terrified.
Yeah, and by the way, he's a big fan of Night of the Living Dead, and then he thought Texas Chainsaw Massacre went too far, when there's way more gore in Night of the Living Dead. But this guy, I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's part of his deal is.
But hey, listen, I'm pretty sure there was probably a lot of blood in that trailer. There was so much blood. Exactly. He was like, "Oh, I can't do it.
I can't do it."
That's where I checked out. That trailer just got him too good.
Right. That's unbelievable, right? But so one of the things I want to get to your idea about how he's not going to be able to escape horror, because it ties into something that he's scared of in his own article, which is he doesn't like the fact that prestige films are getting encroached upon by genre movies. Oh, the horror. You're not allowed in my country club.
Lord have mercy.
Right, exactly. But it's true. I mean, one of the things that's fascinating to me is there was, I don't know what list it was, AFI or something, but for years and years and years, the top movie on that list was Citizen Kane. Yeah. And it just recently got supplanted by Vertigo, which I know, right? Like,
here we go.
This is a Hitchcock movie. Now, Hitchcock is his own genre. Like,
yeah.
That, that's not.
But it's influenced a bunch of directors like David Fincher.
Exactly. Right. And then, when you have these lists of the new best newer movies or best movies of the century or whatever, I noticed at the top of that list is Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Which is a horror movie, among many other things that it is, but definitely scary as hell, jump scares, horror elements, like supernatural-ish, happening. So, horror is coming for you, Ken.
That was the thing that when we first saw the article, I was like, I was almost thinking of Ken as like Laurie Strode, just like you can run, but you can run and run. Say you're not going to watch horror films, but every film you watch, there's horror elements lurking in the shadows of every movie you see, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Horror has left its mark in filmmaking, and it's a pivotal part of storytelling.
Yes.
It's what gives us the conflict.
Yes, for sure. And that's the thing is, when you start going to his ridiculous central argument of why would you go see something whose sole intention is to make you feel awful? I mean, literally, that's the career of Lars von Trier.
Yeah.
Right? That's I forget the guy that directed Funny Games, but that's basically his career. He did Caché, which is just a nightmare, attack thing. One of my favorite films is a movie that I inflict on everyone I made you watch called Harakiri.
武士の面目の上辺だけを飾る者
That's just unrelentingly negative, like whatever. But it's so much more than just this little reductive. Does it make you feel awful?
Yeah.
Like, why are you the center of the universe for this?
Well, I was also thinking, John, back in the day when they did the Bravo Top 100 Horror Movie Countdown, I think one of the questions they asked John Carpenter was, what scares you? And he was like, loss of a limb, loss of a loved one. And I was actually just thinking, because he was calling out the big 6-star. And one of the, I would say, a horror element in that is the loss of a loved one. He's about to lose his girlfriend, which is a horrific accident, which is the pivotal point of that story.
Absolutely. Right. You can't, I mean, Nick is right, Ken / Laurie. I mean, you can keep going to the theater all you want, but horror is behind you. Things that the techniques that influence movie, like Nick, I want him to talk about the whole Spielberg side of this, because one of the things of course, movies that Kenneth Turan likes, and I hate that I share this with him, is War of the Worlds, Spielberg's version. Which
nothing scary in that.
No,
nothing scary in that. There's not one.
The whole
there's
humans
not
being
one
pulped across the landscape. Nothing.
So close your eyes on Hushed by Mountain. Wave goodbye.
Not that, but George, that does not make you feel like terror.
Right,
That's
no.
not terror.
No,
it's not
that didn't make me feel awful
It's
at
not
all.
supposed to invoke any other feeling other than
Right.
pure happiness and joy.
Exactly. But that's the thing is there are so many techniques, and he knows this. You're better than this, Ken. That things that are developed as techniques in horror movies spread to all the other genres. They spread to your precious prestige films. I was scared witless half of watching Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not.
Well, let's look at the Spielberg. I mean, you just look at. I mean, he is like the name of like Hollywood directors. Like, that is like the biggest, most influential filmmaker you can get. And actually, it was David Fincher's one of his big influences was Spielberg. Actually, I don't know how much Hitchcock influenced him, but it was Spielberg. But you look at all of his films, most of his films. Actually, you know what? Even in War Horse, there's some scary shit there. But more specifically, you look at Jaws, classic horror film, and then even if you go to something like Jurassic Park, which a lot of people consider it's heavy on horror elements in it, but it's part of the storytelling elements that make you care about the characters.
Right.
Imagine Jurassic Park. If Jurassic Park did not have any horror elements, it would just be a vlog at a zoo. Like, there would be nothing interesting happening. It would be the most boring goddamn movie of all time.
Right.
But it has elements that apparently he thinks makes a movie crap, when in fact these are the elements that make the characters invested, that make the viewer interested in the characters.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's so, and one of the things that, I found a quote from David Cronenberg that I really liked, where he says, I think of horror films as art, as films of confrontation, films that make you confront aspects of your own life that are difficult to face. Just because you're making a horror film doesn't mean you can't make an artful film. So that element of confrontation and that whatever, I get, Ken's getting older, right? So maybe he wants to confront less things, right?
Yeah.
As a personal choice, maybe he just wants to. He doesn't want to confrontation in his films. He wants to see Cars 3. It's fine.
We're not.
It's totally fine.
Doesn't care.
Again, I'm not trying to convince him to watch horror movies because
Yeah.
he'll write about them, and that's not the outcome I'm looking for.
Well, remember the trailer for Cars 3? The first trailer
God.
they showed? It was
No,
just
Pixar movies.
It was just McQueen crashing and tumbling and like,
That's like the-
sharp like metal flying
It's like
everywhere.
the Logan of the Cars franchise. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I don't know what that trailer was supposed to invoke because I didn't see Cars 3, but I judged the entire movie off the trailer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It looked like a horror film.
Well, that just made you a film critic.
There we go.
Congratulations. So that's the thing is that the confrontation is what he did was he took a personal internal decision. Basically, he took a mood and expanded it to a lifestyle. Because you can get in a mood where you're like, I don't want to watch a horror movie. You get in a mood where you're like, whatever. I get, I'm like I'm have a down day and I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch a musical, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you get a mood, but you don't stretch it out to expand through your whole life. Like that's it. I'm never watching one of these things again.
Yeah.
He took a mood and just stretched it, right? So now it's like his grumpy mood is like.
Except he
you know,
didn't.
Except for he's saying I need a convincing answer to why I should go, why we have to do that work for you when you're the one whose job is to write about film.
But he's also broken his own rule.
Yes.
So
he watches dark movies all the time.
One of the films that I think we about busted a gut over was according to him.
Yes.
What do you think? Okay, let me ask you this.
The one that made me laugh the most out of all his positive
no.
reviews
I know what it's gonna be.
was Nightcrawler and Black Mass.
Oh no! I got it.
Good.
I got a different one. So, if you were to see a movie about a cult who kills people, what would it be?
Yes.
It would most likely be what type of film?
That was so. This makes it's a horror film, and this I think this is kind of revealing. It makes me almost feel bad for this guy because
he's trying to stick to an image.
Yes.
Almost.
Well, no. Yeah. So, but let's explain. So, he was really excited about the fact that something happened, a re-release or restoration or something happened with the classic movie, The Wicker Man, which is a great film. But then
it's a great horror film.
But then he literally, the second line of his review of his coverage of whatever's happening is, Wicker Man is on, gets a well-deserved, birthday restoration, whatever. Wicker Man, a movie that's often, misleadingly classified as a horror film, but really isn't.
Christ! Our Lord!
What?
Yeah. But then he doesn't back that up. He doesn't say why he
Well, no, he does. He says it's a one-of-a-kind film, which is fine. That's totally, everyone can have an opinion about the most boring argument.
Yeah, but saying it's a one-of-a-kind film doesn't
Right.
erase the fact that it's a horror
right,
film.
Well, yeah, but right, exactly. But the most boring argument in the history of the horror genre is whether a movie's horror or not a horror.
Yeah.
It's just horror, is not, whatever. The argument is so, silly that the fact that he even veered towards it makes me angry again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the deeper fact that he seems compelled to take ridiculous stands. And when you're compelled to take a ridiculous stand, I feel like it's revealing of something. It's like if you kept asking me if it was about what the Trump presidency, and I was like, yeah, no, it's fine. He's doing fine, whatever. And be like, why are you covering for this guy? I'm like, well, I didn't vote, okay? I feel like there's something he needs to reveal because it's a ridiculous argument to come out and say The Wicker Man is not a horror film because it's an impossible argument to sustain.
Yeah.
You can say it's one of a kind, right? That's totally fine. But you would have to then take a whole hundreds of movies and then also make them not horror films. I'm just going to wall them all off because if Wicker Man's not, then like a third of the genre's gone.
Yeah.
Right? Peeping Tom's gone. Psycho's gone. Right? This is
number one AFI classic, Vertigo.
Yeah. Well, So, but that's the thing is like that. I feel like because he's compelled to it's like a tick of his that, there's something going on there that,
it's not adding up.
Call us. We'll talk you through it. It's fine.
We'll walk you through it.
Well, exactly. So,
but I want to, but
yes.
I will say, when I watch someone in a wicker cage burning alive, I thought to myself, why would someone want to make me feel this awful?
Well, that's your problem, Nick. Why does that make you feel awful? You should feel elevated because that's a great film, and Get Out's not.
Yeah.
Right, because he's qualified. So
I do paint with one stroke.
Right. Can we be done with this guy? How much do we have left? Because I want to talk about some positive critics.
Is that did we run through the whole thing yet?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't know what else to say with his argument. His the fact that he's judging movies that he's not watching is sad. The fact that he's the
movies he's praising have tons of horror elements.
Right. The fact that he's gonna because his opinion matters. Like he's a Rotten Tomato. His weighted. His reviews are weighted, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to convince people to go see Nightcrawler, but not to go see horror films because he's consistent. So
I felt so greasy after watching
Right?
Nightcrawler.
I wanted to shower after I saw that goddamn movie. So that's the thing is like I don't know what to do with any part of that argument. I don't know what to do with I get that if you feel like the world is getting, more horrifying and you are stressed and your nerves are rattled and you don't want to go see horror movies, like whatever, like Maggie Haberman is an amazing writer and reporter that I'm a big fan of. She's really, really amazing on Twitter. And then, I woke up a couple days ago and she just was like, I'm off Twitter for a week. She's like, literally, she was like, be kind to each other. And then she just took off a week, and now she's back. Right? Because you can do that.
Yeah, you can take a breather.
You know what I mean? Like
that's an option.
Right, that's a thing. So I don't understand the whole like I'm paid to write for movies for a living, but I'm just not gonna do this whole genre of whatever. Like it's not. And he actually. I forget who he mentions, but he was talking about how he really appreciated, I think it's Brian De Palma, and he was talking about all the directors that influenced Brian De Palma, and all, so many of those are horror directors, right? So like, this is a guy who appreciates that directors like De Palma and Scorsese glean things from the horror genre and then put them in their movies. He just doesn't want to touch it.
Yeah,
you guys do it, and then I'll reap the benefits of it. Like you study Val Lewton and you study horror and you put it in your movies. Like talk about making people feel horrible. What the fuck? Silence by Scorsese is like torture porn. Like felt so awful after seeing that. Like whatever. But you guys, you screen the horror things and then you take those techniques, you put them in your movies. I'll enjoy them over here.
And then
in the prestige movies. I'm just not gonna watch it myself.
But make sure they don't step on my lawn.
Exactly. So I don't know what to do with any of that. I feel bad that like it's not personal. Honestly, it's not. We do a horror podcast. We try to cover all horror because I'm a big reader and Nick loves all kinds of stuff that we appreciate in the horror genre. But necessarily, we deal with films a lot. We are film lovers.
Yes.
Right. I love films, and I respect film criticism as a craft, despite my facetious essay I'm about to release based on this fiasco of an article. But it's not, he took a personal decision and made it a public discourse in the weirdest way with what I think are really weak arguments, and I can't even figure out what the motivation for that is.
Yeah.
Right. We do want to give him the benefit of the doubt that it's not like a publicity grab or just some kind of like internet-y thing, but it was just weird. It's just irritating. It happened in the city where we live, so
in the month of October, which is like horror's
right,
horror's ground.
Yeah, exactly. So we were like, whatever. It's on.
Halloween time just spooks the shit out of them.
Right, exactly. But I want to say that there's Roger Ebert and even more than him, Gene Siskel had a lot of problems with a lot of not just horror movies, but horror like subgenres of horror.
Mm-hmm.
But you go back, you want to see a critical mind at the height of its powers, grappling with what it means to experience something awful in a theater. Check out Roger Ebert's review of the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to me, that's the paradigm of what a mind that's open,
yeah,
and actually interested in
what an artist has to say.
Right. If when the artist is talking about awful things,
Yeah.
He just wrote just an amazing and not hagiography. It's not like just complimentary. He has negative points in there too, but that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah.
Notice we're not doing a podcast attacking Roger Ebert's opposition to horror, even though he opposed a lot of horror.
Yeah.
Because he backed up his points.
Mm-hmm.
He had personal preferences, but he also tried to make it broader in the scope of film in general.
Yeah.
And he didn't shut his mind and then just judge things.
He didn't walk away.
Fucking trailers. Right?
He would watch the film
Exactly.
and then base it off the merits of the
Right.
film he just watched.
So fair enough, but also you, as everyone knows, you go back to like the 30s when horror was saving Universal Studios or whatever. The people, a lot of the people running it, and a lot of the people thinking about it, they look down their nose at this genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like he picked on. It's not like he came out and he goes, "You know what's overrated? Prestige films."
Or westerns.
Or Western, right? Right, exactly. He wasn't like that. He wasn't coming out and saying, "You know what? I'm really sick of Merchant Ivory films." Like he just did what everyone does. He just came at the horror genre, and he was like, whatever. He just did it for ostensibly a different reason, but it's very convenient that it's the same spot everyone else punches.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm done with this guy.
Yeah. And the argument against horror films, I mean, you just look at horror icons. You can try all you want.
Right,
you can do whatever you think you can. You can lock them. You can lock them up, throw them in the middle of the ocean. They're gonna find a way to come back.
That's exactly.
It's not
right.
going anywhere.
No.
Like John Carpenter said, I think when he during his live concerts, he said horror will never die, and then kicked on the Halloween theme.
That's awesome.
It's never gonna die. You can try all you want. You can avoid it all you want. You
Right.
can plug your ears and la 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 la. It's still going, or you know what? It's still right behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Watch behind you.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think it's the one thing that I appreciate or sort of take away from this whole ridiculousness of his approach is that it made me rethink and reappreciate how much, when you're sitting in a movie like There Will Be Blood or No Country for Old Men or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
that the scary, the awfulness, the stuff that he's afraid of, like witnessing, is being grappled with by so many interesting minds in so many interesting ways.
Yeah.
We're so much better off that they're doing it
Mm-hmm.
and not doing it, because imagine if everyone took his stand, right? They were like, we're not watching any dark, awful movies or like whatever. That's it. We're not whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you extract awfulness from films, then, well, I was going to say you just end up with Adam Sandler movies, but that's actually not true, because awful.
I'm telling you, no matter where you look, it's gonna
awful
show
has
up.
more than one meaning, it turns out. So, so whatever. But I was kind of stunned emotionally when I walked out of Gone Girl, but I was glad that someone explored that vein.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right, Ken.
There it is.
There it is. That's the answer you were asking for, is don't watch horror movies.
Yeah.
We don't want you to. Just be consistent. Get all the awful movies off your plate. That way you'll be less grumpy.
Yeah. Anything that has a slight hint of horror, that's
Yep.
the intent is to make you feel something. Turn it off. Walk away.
Walk away.
And
Look behind you.
And look behind you, because
Exactly.
there's probably more behind you.
All right.
Though, I kind of want to close on just like I guess we sort of closed on an appreciation, but just like it's October. the year's almost over,
Yep.
and this has been a stellar fucking year.
Yep.
For horror.
Yep. Biggest year in a long time. And it's of up and down, quality, obviously, like with anything. But it's so amazing that there's, we saw this article the other day about how studios are like juggling their schedules to get their big budget blockbuster movies out of the way of their low budget horror movies.
Yeah.
So that they don't impair the Happy Death Day, right? This movie just comes out of nowhere, crushes records. Like, it's just amazing.
It made a boatload of money. Get Out made a boatload of money. Split, M. Night's back doing lower budget horror films that are making a lot more money now.
Yep.
Like everything's just adding up. So I think it's sort of an ironic year to say something like that, but it makes me happy as a fan that these kind of things have not deterred. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Makes me happy that it has not deterred horror.
No, not at all. And like you said, it's spreading out from whatever. One of the best times I had at the movie this year was going to see Logan with you. And it's obviously the darkest installment of the franchise. As a matter of fact, I just saw there's a Mutants movie that basically looks like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Coming out or being made or whatever. So, that's the fact that the filmmakers are brave and are doing interesting things, just makes the fall season all the more fun and better.
Easy. So there it is. That's the Hollow Weekly response.
Well, so we're titling this episode "Why This Podcast Is Giving Up on Film Critics." So we're not going to read any more film critic essay until someone gives us a convincing answer why we should.
And until then, stay scary, watch a bunch of horror films, and happy October.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Well, yeah, I have a very sort of ambivalent view of myself as an artist or as a filmmaker. I mean, somebody once, when I was first starting in films in New York, says, if you want something on your gravestone in the film business, I think the best thing is filmmaker. If you can honestly say that, that's all you need to say. And that I think I would like that on my gravestone, along with whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Beyond that, I don't think it's possible to, or advisable, or even smart to call yourself an artist or talk about yourself as an artist. I mean, first of all, it's a business, and to forget that or ignore it or act like it's not there is just idiotic. And secondly, it's very difficult to know what will later be judged as art. I guess what I've tried to do is I've tried to make movies where I can honestly say I haven't seen that before, and to follow my deepest intuitions and in some cases literally my dreams, so that I don't feel like I'm copying something that's come before me, and to try to do things that speak to sort of the areas outside the fences, where the wild animals are still, because it seems to me that the things that move us historically, both personally and nationally, are those things that aren't on the grid of rationality. It's funny, having traveled now in a lot of third world countries, and I just came back from Africa, it's like you see that every civilization has its own grid of what it thinks reality is and what is proper behavior and what is civilized. And usually what happens is that sooner or later that grid is shattered, and something like World War II happens, or you wipe out the Native American population, or Spain invades South America and decimates virtually every living creature there and takes over. And then suddenly the grid is back, and we're civilized, and we're religious, and we're this and that. But there seems to be a deeper grid that I've tried to find, and that is how the engine of life really works. And I think it works a lot off of violence, like it or not, and it works off a lot off of things that are not rational. and very difficult to perceive, and in some ways can only be sort of adumbrated, sort of sketched and shadow played in films and in horror films. And it's not something I'm terribly happy about. I wish the world did run, so there weren't Bosnias and there weren't Rhondas and there weren't Selmas, but that seems to be the way it goes about its business at significant times. And to try to capture that in symbols on film and to sometimes succeed, I think, is very exciting and gratifying. Beyond that, I have no idea whether anything I've done is of any significance or not. It's like the end of Casablanca in a way. Probably most of what we do doesn't amount to a hill of beans. But it's been fun. It's been fun to be in the business and to survive. It's been fun to sit in the back of audiences and watch them scream and jump and laugh. It's always gratifying to see how smart the audiences are, because quite often my audiences are the outcasts. The kids with the long hair and blacks and Hispanics and people that society thinks discounts, and they're quite often the absolute quickest to grasp what I'm doing, much faster than the civilized critics and people that supposedly are supposed to have heads on their shoulders. So that's a good sign for civilization. I think ultimately the great civilization, which is whatever will allow us to survive, is that in the streets, in the theaters of the most popular movies are very, very smart people, smart kids, and that's encouraging.